I recently tested a town mod for the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim called Falkhurst, created by the mod author Schlitzohr. In my opinion, it is one of the great town mods that adds so much to Falkreath Hold and to the game. In part 1, we discuss the following quests, and in this part we focus on the remaining quests. As mentioned in the first video, this video will contain spoilers, so if you have not played Falkhurst, then watch something else. If you're still here and don't care about spoilers, let's get started then. Falkhurst has an apothecary called Cleverman's Cauldron, owned by Alessian Foxhide. We talked to him to start this quest.
The Cleverman's Cauldron offers all potions, salves, elixirs, and ingredients you'll need. It has stood longer than most places in Skyrim. Falkhurst has been nothing more than a stopover since Cuhlecain's retribution, but it still stands. Perhaps I will lay bare the history hidden within Falkhurst's walls before you. But beforehand, you will have to assist me with the reclamation of 3 important relics that relate to this aforementioned history. Your hard work won't be wasted. 3 potent potions for 3 relics. What do you say? Knowledge is power, and power should not be shared without good reason. Don't be so hasty. The first relic is Gorieus' Warhorn. Gorieus was an emperor of the Alessian Empire during the First Era, who invaded Skyrim.
So Alessian Foxhide talks about an Alessian Empire. What is this empire? Let's investigate. If you read the book The Pocket Guide to the Empire 3rd edition, you learn about the origins of the empire. Alicia, the slave queen and later canonized as Saint Alicia, was a Nedic woman of the First Era. She led the rebellion that ended centuries of human enslavement under the Aelids and founded the first empire of Cyril. As its first empress, she unified fractured faiths and established the worship of the 8 divines. If you read the book The Trials of Saint Alicia, which can be found in Oblivion and Skyrim, we learn about the origins of the Amulet of Kings. At the twilight of her life, Alicia was visited by Akatosh, who bound her soul to the Amulet of Kings. She used the amulet to drive the Daedra out of the mortal realm. The Pocket Guide to the Empire, 1st edition, Cyril, mentions this. The Alessian Empire would last for over 2000 years until the rise of Remen I and the foundation of the Second Empire in 1E 2703. Alessian Foxhide also mentions one Gorieus. Who is he? So we know that Queen Alicia is the founder and spiritual leader of the Alessian Empire. She was succeeded by her son, Belharza, the Man-Bull, who was half human and half Minotaur. Gorieus was the next emperor, crowned in 1E 461. If you read the book Rislav the Righteous, which appears in Oblivion, Skyrim and Yeso, you learn about the coronation ceremony of Gorieus. His coronation in 1E 461 was a somber ceremony, in accordance with the rules of the Alessian order, but still attended by many of the famous figures of the day, including Darloch Bray, the golden beast of Anaquina, the High King of Skyrim, Kyoric the White. Despite the Empire's intolerance of all elves, Ryan Dirani in service to the Imperial Court of High Rock, Kaimer Hortator, Indoril Nerevar and Dwemer Dumac, Dwarf King, attended, diplomatically representing Resdain, all in relative peace. Wow, what a time it was, the First Era, when the Dwemer, the Kaimer, the Dirani and the Alessians were present. Amazing. So let's continue to listen to Alessian Foxhide.
Gorieus was an emperor of the Alessian Empire during the First Era, who invaded Skyrim. Although he ultimately brought about the downfall of the First Empire, his northern campaign ended in victory and ended with the Battle of Sungard. It is at Sungard, where the horn is kept at a shrine. Bring it to me, and we will take the next step. I'm doing better than I would like. There is more need of potions up in the Gerals than one might think.
So Gorieus came all the way to Skyrim and was here in Falkreath Hold and the Reach. Amazing. So let's get this artifact from the First Era and learn more from Alessian Foxhide when we come back.
Be careful around Fort Sungard. Last I heard, it was taken over by the Witchmen of the Reach.
Alright guys, we are here in Fort Sungard in the Reach area to find the war horn of Gorieus. It is funny how Bethesda retconned this place when Sungard was a real town in Elder Scrolls Arena. Also see how they changed the location of Sungard from the Rift to the Reach? Bethesda is the master of retconning, aren't they? This place is teeming with Forsworn. In typical Bethesda fashion, they replaced towns from Elder Scrolls lore with locations that have enemies for the player to kill. It is the same here at Fort Sungard. We just used sneak potions to get to the Fort Sungard shrine area. Where we find the artifact of Gorieus. Alright, let's head back to Falkhurst.
Let me know if you see anything you like. Be careful around Fort Sungard. Last I heard, it was taken over by the Witchmen of the Reach. It's incredible to hold such an important piece of history in your hands. You see, Gorieus' invasion of Skyrim was triggered by the dissidence of High King Chorik the White to the monotheistic Alessian order, which the Imperials adhered to back then. Each costly victory brought him closer to ruin, until Rislav the Righteous slew him at Skingrad, the beginning of the end of the First Empire. It is said that Gorieus had no sense of humor, a somber man who appreciated the silence of Falkhurst, but nevertheless, he tore down the shrines that surrounded this place.
Amazing! Abel in Foxhide talks to us about Gorieus' military campaign in Skyrim, which ended at Fort Sungard. Again in the book Rislav the Righteous, you learn about the Battle of Sungard. Gorieus was an accompanied warrior even before taking the throne, and the 17 years he had as emperor were scarcely peaceful. Gorieus and the Alessian army faced another of his coronation guests, Chorik the White, on the fields of the frozen north. The High Chieftain of Skyrim lost his life in the Battle of Sungard. Because of this defeat, Emperor Gorieus' forces were able to take control of southern Skyrim. It is interesting, isn't it, how a guest of Gorieus' own coronation was the enemy he had to kill. I loved learning about the history of Emperor Gorieus. Also, I love how Schlitzohr, the mod author, weaved the story of Gorieus into the history of Falkhurst here. Incredible work.
Here is the first potion you earned. Now let us continue with the next lesson.
The first history lesson is over. Time for the next. I'm loving this.
I admire your eagerness. Next, we'll deal with the orcs of Falkreath. They came to Skyrim in the early Second Era, but their chiefdom quickly fell to ruin. Despite trying to rebuild it, the orcs only succeeded in this endeavor centuries later, after the Oblivion Crisis. Cracked Tusk Keep this orcish settlement is called nowadays, and it holds an ancient drum called King Thunder, which is sacred to the Orsama. Bring it to me, and we'll delve even deeper into the history of Falkhurst.
So, Abel in Foxhide says the orcs came to Skyrim in the Second Era, but their chiefdom quickly fell to ruin. Most of the lore from this is from Elder Scrolls Online, and I know many people consider stuff from ESO non-canon, but I will share some resources as we discuss the lore of this orc kingdom in the Second Era.
The Cracked Tusks are fierce warriors, and I doubt they will hand the drum to you without a fight. That is, if they catch you.
We do know that Cracked Tusk Keep is a medium-sized fort west of Falkreath containing orc bandits. So let's go to Cracked Tusk Keep and find the Second Era artifact. Here is Falkhurst. Cracked Tusk Keep is here, near the border of Hammerfell. Alright guys, we are here near Cracked Tusk Keep. Do note, I have installed the Cracked Tusk Keep mod from Schlitzohr, which overhauls the Maila location and changes it into an orc stronghold. So if you don't have this mod, your character will have to fight. But our guy, Dera Selvani, will just enter the stronghold and steal the artifact like a boss.
Good to come out on the window side. I've never been to an old stronghold, but I've never tried to swallow a live rodent either. Some things just never cross your mind until they do.
Rumorin is such great company.
Halt, Outlander! By the code of Malakath, this stronghold belongs to the Orcs. We won't kill you, Outlander. We don't want you here. Remember that.
You have no business in our stronghold, Outlander.
Oh, don't worry. We are here just to steal something.
You have no business in our stronghold, Outlander.
Critical success. Yes! That was a lucky lockpick. There it is, the artifact from the second era, King Thunder. We can talk to Chief Gunzel of this stronghold. In Vanilla Skyrim, he was a brainless enemy, but with Schlitzzohr's cracked tusk keep, we can work for him.
We don't know you, and we don't want you here.
Bethesda has a habit of filling locations with brainless bandit camps. There are more bandit camps than civilized towns and villages in Vanilla Skyrim. That is why I love installing Schlitzzohr's mods. Skyrim feels so lived in now. Alright, let's head back to Falkhurst.
Ever heard of the arena? If they ever made a competition out of eating elsewhere fondue, I'd be grand champion. And the scuba addict.
Our guy here is busy staring at the shrine of Talos and contemplating the end of the first era. Rumorin talks about elsewhere fondue. Don't ever change, dear Rumorin. Don't ever change.
Got something for just about everybody in here. Give a holler if you have any questions.
What?
The cracked tusks are fierce warriors, and I doubt they will hand the drum to you without a fight. That is, if they catch you.
Aberlin thinks we are running Vanilla Skyrim.
A grueling piece of craftsmanship befitting its orc creators. Yashnag Groyazgu ruled over a good portion of Falkreath for over 30 years. While the Crethi always struggled against the Colovians and Nords, their hatred for the orcs knew no bounds. Unlike other Nords, the Crethi always were in favor of Orchay. It is said that the god of death was closely associated with Malakath for a time, and at first favored Yashnag's chiefdom. Orchay even put a curse on the men of Falkreath, but at some point a few clever men gathered at Falkhurst and bargained with the snake god. The curse was thrown back at the orcs, and their chiefdom was undone in a few days.
Nice. As I said earlier, all of this lore is from ESO. But let's go over the story of the Second Era Orc clan in Skyrim. If you read the book Orcs of Skyrim, which appears in ESO, you learn about this clan. After Orsinium was sacked by Breton and Redguard forces in 2E431, Yashnag and his clan fled east to reclaim lands in Skyrim they felt were theirs by ancient right. Swarter, the king of Western Skyrim, was unsuccessful in preventing Yashnag from claiming territory. Eventually, his chiefdom became a bane upon Western Falkreath for more than 30 years. During this time, Yashnag sacked various forts such as Faldar's Tooth and killed the Jarl of Falkreath on the field of battle. If you read the book King Thunder, which appears in ESO, you learn about the drum, which we got at Cracked Dust Keep. King Thunder, an orcish drum renowned for both its bass stone and impressive volume, was hidden during the siege of Orsinium and eventually made its way to Yashnagro Yagzu's stronghold in Falkreath. Again, I love how Schlitzohr has woven the story of Yashnagro Yagzu into the history of Falkhurst here, when Aberlin says, a few clever men gathered at Falkhurst and bargained with Orchay. Of course, back in the Second Era, the Nords were not imperialized and they followed their own religion. Orchay is the god of mortality in the totemic religion of Nords. Amazing. Let's do one final task for Aberlin.
You earned this potion. Now let's go for the last relic. The last one relates to your initial question that sparked this journey. The Tear of Cuhlecain, a memento to what is necessary to rule unchallenged. It is said that the tear was kept in the imperial ruins south of here, an haunted place. If you succeed in the retrieval of it, you will have your answers. I don't know what awaits you in those cursed ruins, but I must have the tear.
In part 1 of this mini-series, we spoke about King Cuhlecain, the leader of Falkreath in the First Era. You may pause and read. So we are supposed to get a memento called the Tear of Cuhlecain. Let's go.
People have always said that I think the sun shines out of my bottom, so we know they won't come up from behind us.
Alright guys, we are at the Bloodlet Throne. This place is crawling with vampires and this is a vanilla dungeon. I won't bore you guys with this. I shall get you guys back once we find King Cuhlecain's memento. And our guy here will sneak nervously.
Soon your blood will find you, and you will beg me to let you die.
Alright guys, we have crawled through Bloodlet Throne and we are in its depths. Here we find a chest with Cuhlecain's tear.
No. She said I'd forget, and usually I do, but sometimes still remember their faces.
Skyrim sneaking is legendary. Let's get out of here.
Let me know if you see anything you like. I don't know what awaits you in those cursed ruins, but I must have the tear. Ah, his precious tear. Now you will learn the answer to your initial question. When King Cuhlecain set out from Falkreath to unite Tamriel, not all courtiers and warriors were convinced of his goals. Some actually grew more skeptical with every victory, especially with the rise of General Talos, the later Tiber Septim. They conspired against the king and his general, but were no match for Talos's cunning. After they were driven out of the city of Falkreath, they took their last stand at Falkhurst. Cuhlecain's vengeance knew no bounds. Since that day, Falkhurst has been nothing more than a memory of better times carved in stone. One tear was shed by the Emperor Zero for what had to be done, and you brought it to me. That concludes our journey into Falkhurst's past, and here is the last potion I promised.
And that completes the quest. Aberlin talks about King Cuhlecain's victories and successes. If you read the book The Arthurian Heresy, which appears in Morrowind and Skyrim, you get a better idea. Cuhlecain's forces were led by Hjalti Earlybeard. Hjalti would later become Tiber Septim. Cuhlecain's and Talos' military successes caught the attention of Chevalier Renauld, a remnant of Remen III's Dragon Guard from several years prior. Renauld began to support Cuhlecain's campaign for the Imperial City. Within a year, King Cuhlecain brought the estates together and made his way to the Nibene Valley. The defending battle mages quickly surrendered and Cuhlecain took control of the Imperial City. Before he could be named the Emperor of Cyrodiil, however, Cuhlecain was murdered by an unknown assailant in 2E854. The historical consensus is that he was assassinated by Reachfolk Nightblade from the Western Reach, yet other sources say his death was a result of a conspiracy by General Talos. Wow, what a story. So who killed King Cuhlecain? Did Tiber Septim do it? Your guess is as good as mine. I enjoyed the story of King Cuhlecain and also loved how Schlitzohr has woven the story of Cuhlecain into the history of Falkhurst here, when Aberlin says the people who conspired against Cuhlecain took their final stand here at Falkhurst. Absolutely incredible. The tasks within the quest were fairly straightforward, but the mod author uses Elder Scrolls lore from the first and second eras and then creates stories that add depth to the settlement of Falkhurst. Incredible writing and storytelling. I really went down the rabbit hole reading about King Cuhlecain, Gorieus of the Alessian Empire and Yashnak Guru Yagzu. Man, I did not know the Falkreath area had so much history, and Bethesda never bothered to explore said lore in their Falkreath city quests. If the tasks had more role-playing options instead of generic fetching, then the rating would go beyond 9. But the greatness of this quest is ensured because it adds so much depth to Falkhurst and Falkreath Hold in general. After listening to all of that history, Dera Serethi takes a break, has some tea and marvels at the village's past. Falkreath has definitely been through a lot. To start this quest, we visit the Hall of the Dead and speak to Wendella, where we get to listen to a wonderful story.
Need something? Yes? Remembrance is what defines Falkhurst. This is a place people come to find peace from all the noise, and this hall welcomes them. I found my calling among these ruins, tending to the dead and listening to the living. If it is a history lesson you are interested in, talk to the alchemist. I used to be part of a mercenary group, not your average bandit rabble. We fought with honor. The Band of Kyne, they called us. But it has been almost 2 decades since then. We were betrayed by one of our own, Cornelis, an elven mage. At least, that's what I'd like to believe. Everyone was dead, except for that bastard and me. I worked as a mercenary for a while longer, but eventually, I just couldn't do it anymore. I met an old priest up here and chose to assist him. He passed away 6 winters ago, and now it is upon me to take care of this hall. Maybe another time. Now that the anger is gone, the sadness weighs heavily on my heart when I dwell on these memories for too long. Before I came to Falkhurst, I kept trying to track down Cornelis multiple times, but every time I thought I had found him, he had already disappeared again. Even tried it one last time after Ulfr, who watched over this hall before me, passed away. His trail led me to Dragonbridge in Hafengar. I lingered a while on the bridge that gave the place its name and regained my composure. It is futile. What would his death change? I would be the only person from my fondest memories who still lives on.
Okay, so Wendella was part of a mercenary group called the Band of Kyne, and she believes that the band was betrayed by one Cornalis, who is a vanilla NPC who can be found in the ruined fort of Harmugstal. She wants our help in finding the person who betrayed her group. She does not reveal more about the Band of Kyne unless we help her. Okay, we have to go all the way to Haffingar, and Deresiriti will take a carriage from Falkreath. See you guys there.
Come on in. We got warm food, warm drinks, and warm beds.
Fate is the name. I keep the inn.
Let me think. Outside of the Thalmor, there haven't been many Altmer who stopped at the inn in recent years. To narrow it down, do you know anything else about this Cornalis guy? There was a strange fellow. Maybe that was this Cornalis you are speaking of. He was interested in abandoned ruins. I know many such places from the stories told to me by adventurers. The elf lit up when I told him about Harmugstal. The place is infested with spiders, which seem to fascinate him. Maybe you should search there for his whereabouts. Harmugstal is located in the Reach. Look for an imperial ruin on the left bank as you follow the Karth toward the Druidak Mountains.
Okay, so we got a lead. We have to travel to the Reach near the Karth River. Harmugstal is near Kathwaston. See you there. The Reach is just spectacular. I love it. Harmugstal is a vanilla dungeon where we kill some spiders. I won't bore you guys by showing it. See you once we meet Cornalis.
Some more glow dust in the next batch of potions. That should increase their resistance.
There he is. In Beyond Skyrim, he's hostile and we have to fight him. But not here.
What? Who are you? How did you get this far?
We have some nice roleplay dialogue options here.
I've traveled Skyrim for many years, some on my own and some as part of different mercenary groups. At some point I had enough of traveling around and sought out a sanctuary to realize some ideas that had accumulated over the years. Not long ago, an innkeeper in a settlement northeast of here told me about Harmugstal. An abandoned imperial ruin infested with spiders, just what I needed for my studies. High Rock, more specifically Blackhead, on the Isle of Balfiera, where I was born. But I quickly grew tired of the sad Direni remnants that rule Balfiera and decided to travel Tamriel, expanding my knowledge wherever I could. I studied under many skillful apothecaries, but eventually was drawn more and more to field research. So I became a mercenary to get around and seek out opportunities to hone my craft. There isn't a day that goes by that I do not. They were the finest group I ever belonged to. No, the only group I ever truly belonged to. But all good things have to come to an end, and the highest heights are more fleeting than the deepest depths. Betrayal? Call it what you will. Did Wendella send you? Is that bloodhound still out for revenge? Did she tell you about the end of the Band of Kyne? How our great leader was ready to sacrifice us for his ambition? She has no idea. Graver's designs were beyond my understanding. Would it have been possible to save more than just me? Maybe. I could have warned them, but there was nothing but dread in that night sky. Wendella was always suspicious of me and followed me. Always trying to serve and protect Graver and his band. I was able to escape her, which I would later manage to do again and again, but only just so. Oh yeah, I was aware. I didn't see the aftermath, but Wendella must have seen it. The Band of Kyne was no more.
So something bad was about to happen to the band of Kyne, and Cornelius knew about this and left without warning. Wow, Cornelius did not even see the aftermath. I wonder what happened to all of them. We decided to be reasonable as we did not know the plans of the leader or the aftermath.
Thank you. I really haven't talked about anything other than my research for a long time. I needed that.
Let's head back and talk to Wendella.
That suits him. Somehow it relieves me that he is still alive, despite his cowardice. As an elf, he will hopefully carry the memories of our golden days a little further into the future than I could on my own. Come back later if you want to hear a few stories about the Band of Kyne. I'm just too tired right now.
Okay, looks like Wendella has no desire for retribution, nor does she need more information. She's at peace with whatever happened to the Band of Kyne. So she wants to talk to us tomorrow, so let's chat with her assistant.
What? It is the place I grew up in. My past, present, and future. My parents were hunters and loved Falkhurst. I can't imagine to live anywhere else, but I see the downsides nonetheless. A backwater crumbling and disappearing from maps. But there is nothing I would leave it for. This is where my family hails from. And I will carry on. Mama and Papa were hunters. The best there ever were. But the winter takes what it wants, and they were no exception. They passed away shortly before the turn of the century. I miss them, but I'm also glad that they don't have to witness war coming back to Skyrim again. They were buried under an avalanche. Come spring, I found the bodies. Just wish I would have also found Papa's axe. I'm barely scraping by myself, but pelts and meat of all the critters up here are more in demand than one might think. My parents taught me everything I need to survive in the mountains. Alright then.
Nice. This NPC is not involved in quests, but has decent dialogue and some backstory. Good stuff.
Let us start with how I came to join the Band of Kyne. I grew up in a tiny fishing village on an island in the Sea of Ghosts. Poor parents, many siblings in all. My parents couldn't feed us properly, so as the eldest daughter, I had to leave home to marry a miner who lived in Dawnstar much older than me. The ship to Dawnstar ran aground. Only the first mate, Isnard, and I survived. He rescued me from the wreckage, and we were stranded on another island for a few days. Old Isnard built a raft, and we managed to reach the shore, but there bandits were searching through the flotsam. Isnard tried to protect me, but he was no warrior, and they cut him down with ease, and I became a prisoner of the bandits. Of course not. They were just a bunch of cutthroats with no honor and no purpose. We marched back to the bandits' camp, and there I met Gravar and his band of Kyne for the first time. They ambushed the bandits on behalf of the Jarl. Gravar lost not one man to the bandits. The Band of Kyne wasn't just a ragtag of outcasts. They were true warriors. Gravar gave me the choice to join them, to become a warrior. He said he saw potential in me. Before that moment in time, no one had ever seen anything in me. But Gravar? He only needed one glance. He simply saw these things, not just in me. I was so grateful, and did everything I could to become the weapon he envisioned. I wanted to serve Gravar's ambitions, and protect his Band of Kyne. Let's stop here for now. If you're still interested in my story, come back tomorrow.
Okay, nice origin story of how Wendella met Gravar and joined the band.
Now that you know how I joined the Band of Kyne, let's talk about its founding by Gravar. That was before my time with them, so I only know this story from what others have told me. Please bear that in mind. Gravar, like me, hailed from a poor family. He didn't talk much about it, but I think some members mentioned his hometown was Snowhawk in Hjalmarch. He set out as a young boy, even younger than I was when I had to leave my home. Like-minded individuals gathered around him as if by themselves, and so the Band of Kyne was formed, mercenaries who quickly gained fame and notoriety. Of course, when I joined, there were 3 commanders who had been with Gravar since the beginning. First there was Gorved, a huge man with an appetite to match his size. There were even rumors that some giant blood flowed through his veins. He was extremely loyal to Gravar and spoke very little, but his heart was in the right place. Gorved always listened, and the few words he spoke were always helpful. Then there was Alessian, a sly fox with a quick temper. He admired Gravar's ambition, but had no sympathy for those who had not yet proven themselves. It took some years before he accepted me, and many of his words struck me like a poisoned arrow to the heart. I really miss those guys. Oh yes, let's talk about Velant, the master blacksmith who was responsible for our equipment and supplies. He was the only man who dared to stand up to Gravar. After a particularly heated argument with our leader, he left the band of Kyne and never returned. No one knew the details, and we didn't dare to bring it up to Gravar. I wonder what happened to Velant. But I think it's time for another break. Let's continue tomorrow if you want to hear more.
Nice, we learnt about the members of the Band of Kyne.
Out with it. It's time to speak about our greatest achievements. During the Great War, the Band of Kyne went south with the army of General Jonna, and we fought in the Battle of the Red Ring. After the Empire's victory, our contribution was even honored by Emperor Titus Mede II himself. We were sent straight to Hammerfell to continue the turning tide of war, with the prospect of a minor seat on the Elder Council for Gravar after the approaching victory. But then the White Gold Concordat was signed, and no Imperial official seemed to remember our sacrifices. However, Gravar was not impressed by this, and we continued to fight alongside the forebears against the Dominion. The city-state of Rihad as an ally. Gravar grew close to one of the princes of Rihad and helped him force out the Imperial loyalists after the war. An engagement was even arranged between Gravar and a princess, and the Band of Kyne helped maintain peace in the city. Rihad was devastated by the war, and the reconstruction went on very slowly. Over time, Gravar became increasingly reclusive. I often saw him leafing through strange, ancient tomes, and sometimes engrossed in passionate discussions with equally strange foreign scholars. And then one day, without any reason given, Gravar ordered us to leave Riyadh for an unknown destination we would never reach. Let us leave it at that for now. I'm tired. Come back tomorrow if you want to hear one last story.
Okay, Wendella talks about the Band of Kyne serving the Empire. She mentions the Battle of Red Ring. Details are found if you read the book The Great War, which can be found when you play Skyrim.
What brings you to Falkhurst's Hall of the Dead? As I said, there is only one last story left that I would like to tell. The end of the Band of Kyne. After our departure from Riyadh, we marched through barren wastelands with no rest until we reached Craglorn. No one questioned Gravar. No one dared. We set up camp somewhere to the west of Ilinhir. Everyone was tired, but there were no words of appreciation or encouragement from Gravar. As was usually the case, he retreated to his tent and didn't speak a word. Most of the others were so exhausted that they only concerned themselves with eating, drinking, and sleeping, except for Cornelius. He was restless, and I repeatedly saw him near Gravar's tent. Late that night, I saw him near the tent one last time. He stumbled away into the darkness. I checked on Gravar, but he just sat there and read this damned tome again. Alessian advised me to leave him alone, and I decided to look for Cornelius instead. I was right on his heels, but at some point I decided to leave him be. I thought of him as a weird one anyway, and also that maybe we would be better off without him. On my way back to the camp, I noticed that the sky was changing. Dark clouds blocked out the light of the moons and stars. A thunderstorm was brewing, the lightning strikes almost looking red in color to me. I hurried up. And then I saw our camp in the distance. Silence had fallen over it. I continued my approach to the camp and saw all the men sitting in a circle around Gravar's tent. But something was off, and a moment later I realized it. They sat there in silence, each one of them headless. I thought I had lost my mind, and I rushed to Gravar's tent. It was empty, and when I stepped outside again, they had all disappeared, and the sky looked like any other night.
Wow, what? So Wendella went after Cornelius, and when she returned, everyone was headless? So all members of the Band of Kyne are dead? Whoa! So she went inside Gorieus' tent, and when she stepped out, the bodies were gone? This seems like a supernatural event, right? Or maybe even a vision. What could have caused that?
I never found out. I collapsed and laid there in the dust for hours, and at some point I felt like I was completely hollowed out. The next memory of this night is like I'm watching myself move on my own, grabbing some supplies and leaving for Ellen here. The following weeks are just fragmented images of me repeatedly drinking myself nearly to death, and indulging in all other forms of self-destruction. In the end, I was expelled from the city, and luckily regained some clarity. I decided to return to Skyrim and forget about my time with the Band of Kyne. Of course, I never achieved the latter, but this concludes my story. That should be enough material to pass this story on to other adventurers around a campfire. I'm tired of talking. Oh, and this may seem strange to you, but please take this sword. It belonged to our leader. Do with it as you please.
So we get a parting gift, a great sword. Thank you. So why was it called the Band of Kyne?
I suppose I still owe you this last story. Gravar told me when he first left Snowhawk to achieve true greatness, he got lost in the Dreikmere. When he saw a hawk appear in the sky above, he decided to follow it, and the hawk led him out of the swamp to a shrine of Kyne. He plundered the edible offerings and swore an oath to repay his debt to the Widow of Shore. And one of his ways to do so was to name his band after her. Until next time.
And that completes the quest. The ending was a shocker. Cornelius may have known something bad was about to happen, maybe. Let's check his dialogue. He only says that Gorieus was ready to sacrifice the Band of Kyne for his ambition. What ambition? So Gorieus was ready to kill his own brothers and sisters? Wow. Maybe Gorieus was in cahoots with the Direct Prince and was ready to sacrifice the band? Wow, who knows? I guess what happened to the Band of Kyne will always remain a mystery. The ending of this story is left to the interpretation of the reader, but a lot of people like closure too. The great film director Stanley Kubrick said this about 2001: A Space Odyssey. The quest also has a minor branch and subtask. You can kill Cornelius, and Wandela has some special dialogue. You can also work for Cornelius and get free alchemy training. I'll leave that for you guys to test. The Band of Kyne was essentially a story told in the form of a quest. Ultimately, Wendella and Cornelius were mere actors in the story. They played their part and have moved on from a tragedy that they can't explain. Nevertheless, they have fond memories of their time in the Band of Kyne, and they were happy to share their stories with us. The final quest, the Soulstone, is a simple fetch quest. Talk to Imirenwe at the Skooma Den, go to Shadow's maze, and you walk in the maze for 5 minutes, and you will find the soul gem. Nothing complex here. Return to Imirenwe and we get an enchanted boot. The Soulstone was a fetch quest with some decent backstory. I think this quest could have added a surprise. In the maze we could meet a thief or another adventurer who has the soul gem, and we have to get it from them using our speed skills or by force, or they could offer us a better deal. Daggerfall surprises always elevate generic fetch quests like these. Alright guys, we have reviewed and showcased all the quests in this mod, Falkhurst, and here are my ratings of every quest. Huge congratulations and my sincerest thanks to Schlitzohr for creating these town mods. These mods add so much character to Skyrim's holds. Falkhurst is a small village with few NPCs, but holy cow, the mod adds incredible depth to Falkreath Hold. The writing is great, every NPC is written to have a unique personality, and the quest design is fantastic. What impressed me most about the mod was how Schlitzohr masterfully integrated the lore of Falkreath from the first and second eras into the fabric of Falkhurst. If you are still here, I appreciate you, and let me know in the comments below about this mini-series. Did you enjoy these episodes? Would you be interested in content like this where we delve into critical observation of quest design and writing of mods? Do share your suggestions. Thank you all for watching, and may the divines guard and keep you.